Possession crucial from this. How much longer will the referee allow? Dublin lead by a point, and there's the whistle. It's over. It's over.
We earned it by winning the last 2 matches on the road, and that's not going to be taken away from us.
But what I love in hurling, I love players that will never give in.
He hits it. He hits it. It's over the bar. Oh, holy Moses.
Hello everyone and welcome along to this week's RTÉ GAA Hurling Podcast. Jacqui, Tyrrell and Ursula Jacob are with myself and Rory to look ahead to the weekend's fixtures. In Division 1A, you've got Cork, Kilkenny, Wexford, Galway, Limerick, Clare, and in Division 1B, Waterford against Dublin, Offaly against Westmeath and Carlow against Antrim. And Jacqui, Tyrrell, let's start with the Cork-Kilkenny clash this weekend, which has just such a huge cloud hanging over it now this week after the passing of Ray Ryan, a good friend of mine, a good friend of yours, and just like such a horrible thing for the hurling community, the Cork public, the Ryan family in particular, to have to deal with on a human level. It's been a horrendous week, hasn't it?
Yeah, Jacqui, and look, the games, it almost seems irrelevant when the backdrop of what the last 2-3 days has unfolded. And look, I knew Ray Ryan, I knew him personally, I went to college with him, I hurled with him, I socialised with him, a really good friend of a good friend of mine, Kieran Murphy, and just devastation to hear the passing of Ray, 43 years of age, a lovely wife and 3 kids, immersed in the SARS GAA club, a great community around him, and it's just there are no really words to put into context the devastation for his wife, for Pat, his brothers, his mum and dad, the SARS Riverstown GAA Glanmire community and the Greater Cork GAA community. It's just absolute devastation. It hits you so hard when you hear the news. You're just like, that can't be. That's a mix up, and then the news filters through. So look, from myself and from everyone involved in the whole hurling GAA world, we all send our condolences to the Ryan family and to the community that is surrounding them today, tomorrow, and over the next couple of days, and that'll filter into weeks and months, because things like that, they're devastating, Jacqui.
Yeah, they are. Like, listen, I think a lot of people probably know he's a good friend of mine as well, has been for over 25 years. So I'm in Glanmire today over the next few days, and I think for everyone, it's just to wrap your head around something like that a 43-year-old who's so full of life, who's so still involved in the game, is suddenly not there. But I just, for anybody who didn't know him, just to give a sense of his character, a pure rogue, like a pure hurling man, just full of crack, full of enjoyment. You talked about socialising, like some of the times out in Cork that people would have met him, a very well-known, very well-loved guard around Cork, and just an all-round good hurling man. So I think we are all the better for having known Ray Ryan, and I think for Aisling and the kids and for all the Ryan family in the days ahead, it is going to be very challenging. But one thing that I know for certain is that the hurling community will wrap themselves around them, Rory, because as you've seen with the Cork public over the last year, how much they've embraced Pat Ryan, even through his own illness over the last number of years. I would imagine it is going to be a very, very challenging time for all of them, but no better people than the Cork public to wrap their big arms around him.
You couldn't have said it any better, to be perfectly honest. I think, like we all saw last year, the way the Cork hurling team reconnected in a big way with the support base, and we saw the hordes and hordes of Cork supporters come out and support the team. Pat Ryan and the Ryan family and SARS were central to that. There is a reason why people rode in behind him in that way, in that manner. It is because of the affection and the respect and the sheer love that people have for Pat. And even when Pat took the job on, and people were so happy because they knew how much he would invest into it and how much he bleeds the blood and bandage. And, look, from his family's perspective, you mentioned it there in relation to his family. Jacqui, Tyrrell obviously would have known Ray as well. It's just heartbreaking. It's just, there's no words really like that are going to be of any comfort. But I do think that the turnout that you're going to see today, tomorrow, over the weekend, that will get in behind Pat will be significant. And look, all you can say is your heart breaks, and it's, yeah, you just hope that, whatever strength they can get from the support that they will obviously be given will sustain them over the next coming days, weeks and months as they mourn the passing of Ray and, Ariash Day.
Yeah, absolutely, Rory. It does make it very hard to focus on a game, though, Ursula, doesn't it? You know, you've got a Cork hurling team trying to take to the field against Kilkenny. They're great rivals for so many years. And you know that the Kilkenny fans are going to be very respectful for Pat Ryan and his family as well. But for everything, it's a very challenging circumstance to come and play what is, you know, a big game for both teams. And it's hard to even kind of look at it in that context now.
Yeah, you're trying to put things into perspective. And as you said, Kilkenny are coming down, you know, obviously wanting to win the game, but also will be very respectful towards, you know, Cork's management and players as well, because it will be a very tough and challenging week. And even talking about the game seems strange and insignificant after what you guys have said about, you know, Ray and his family and how highly regarded they are. But, you know, the game, you know, life keeps going and the game will take place. And no doubt there'll be a big crowd there, both from Cork and Kilkenny. And as we know, the rivalry there between the two teams is immense, and they've the utmost of respect as well. You know, Jacqui, Tyrrell will no doubt, you know, agree with that they kill each other on the pitch and they've had huge battles. But, you know, at the end of the day, you have lots of great memories of those battles as well. And no doubt Saturday evening's game will be a testament to that as well.
Yeah. What sort of a Kilkenny will arrive in Cork then on a Saturday night, Jacqui?
Yeah, Jacqui, well, I suppose to just echo what Rory said, they'll be very respectful and like the respect Cork GA sits in Kilkenny is huge. And, you know, Pat Ryan as well. What a great guy. And just, I met Pat recently, and I have a young lad that's mad about Cork hurling. And we were going to go down to this game, and the young lad loves Dickie Dalton and James Harney. And I said to Pat, I said, look, is there any chance we could see the boys after? He said,
he
no
needs
problem
them.
at all.
He needs
no
them.
problem at all. And you know how different that conversation that I had with Pat Ryan that was only a couple of months ago. He said, no problem at all, Jacqui, come down. I said, look, I'll try to keep the Cork jersey off from Pat, but more than likely do something to red at him. So we had a good skit and a laugh, but you know, it's a different game now from that, unfortunately, for everyone associated. But I feel there's a Kilkenny team coming with a bit of anger, and I look at the next 3-4 weeks, Jacqui, as it's a pivotal time, I think, for Kilkenny. Yeah, it is the league, and it's a more competitive league, but we're going to Cork. We then have Tip at home, and we've Limerick at home over the next 3 to 4 weeks. It's now at a time where jerseys need to be grabbed, performances need to be nailed, because if you look at the backdrop, and with all due respect to Wexford, they weren't at the races in the first half, but we lost our way in the second half. The game before that, for 50 minutes, Galway came into Nolan Park and bossed us around. We had an opportunity to win when Owen Cody had that great chance of goal, and we didn't take it. So it's been very patchy, and there's this narrative and these words around Kilkenny that they always show up with their overalls on. When they get a chance, they kill the team. I've seen small little signs of maybe that is eroding a small bit. I don't think we're as ruthless as before. I don't think we are as hardworking as before. I see patches of the game where we're going out of the game and our work level is dropping off completely. If you took Mossy Keown over our first 2 or 3 games, we wouldn't have a whole lot to hang on for. So I think it's time for this group now to really, really grow and nail these next 3 performances. Do we need to win the 3 of them? No. But look, it'd be nice that we win in 2 if 3 of them out of it, but backing them up with huge performances. I mean, Limerick coming to town, Tip coming to town, and going to Cork. It doesn't get any bigger, with all due respect for Kilkenny. So it's a pivotal time for Derek Ling. He'd like to come out of this next passage having gone, right, lads, we've nailed down our team. We've a fair idea of what we're about. And we have guys like Jordan Malloy, Harry Shine, Stephen Donnelly, Billy Drennan. We need to now know, are these guys up to it? And the acid test is coming in 3 great tests for us. So I think it's an important phase, and that starts this Saturday at 5 o'clock, Jacqui.
I think it's a good way, Ursula, for them to finish out their league, because they don't have to play those teams again for another couple of months. Like Jackie's right, not only is it a brilliant acid test, but also it's a nice look at, are those players ready to play in the spice of those kind of games? Because the Leinster Championship, albeit has come up, but some of those Munster Championship games, that's what they're looking at towards the end of the season. They want to know, are they going to be ready for the fight in a few months?
And I think Derek Ling will be saying to the guys as well, like, they don't need to hold back or, you know, reserve some of what they, you know, hope to show in the Leinster Championship. As Jacqui said, they're playing 3 Munster games. So in one way, it's a pity that the game last weekend didn't take place, because I think we were looking forward to seeing how Kilkenny were going to do against Limerick, who, you know, we've seen the strength and depth of them, and it would have been in Nolan Park and would have made set up nicely then for this weekend. But now they've had, I'm sure they're going to have got a lot of work in those 3 weeks. You know, as Jacqui said, it's about maybe that ruthless streak that has been missing in some of the games, because myself and Jacqui were there that night against Wexford, you know, 3 weeks ago, and like they were dominant in the first half, but like they allowed Wexford back into it. Wexford won the second half. Yes, you can say the game was over at half time, but for me, anytime I would have seen Jacqui's era playing, wearing the Kilkenny jersey, they didn't take the foot off the pedal. They would bury you with another 2 or 3 goals if they could. So are these guys stepping up? Obviously, the likes of Adrian Mullen, TJ Reid, these guys are not back in yet. But the under-20s that have been kind of been sprinkled in the last year or two probably do need to nail this in the team. And these 3 games are the best place to see if they're able for it at this level.
Big opportunity for Kilkenny then. What about Cork, Rory? What does that side of the coin look like, particularly coming off the back of what happened last weekend?
Yeah, I think they have a couple of issues still. They're obviously still experimenting with a lot of players, and there's a few players to come back in. Decky Dalton was suspended from the Wexford game, so he missed the last 2. I'd imagine he will, to keep Jacqui Smallfella happy, he will definitely start on Saturday evening. And I think you're going to probably still need, like, the thing from Cork's perspective was, could they find that little bit of dynamism in the half forward line? And look, we were hoping we might have been able to see maybe a Ben Cunningham type come in and challenge for that position. Now, obviously, injuries continue to beset Ben and have stalled his development to a certain extent. But I think without Decky Dalton and Seamus Harnedy in that half forward line, we saw the last day against Tipperary, Cork still struggle. The other side of it, in a defensive capacity, Limerick, I think, has been a plus. He obviously had his hands full last week with Darren McCarthy, but at the same time, Pat left him on for the full match, and I thought that was an interesting tactic, because Ger needs game time, and I think I would have a sneaky suspicion that come championship, that full back line, Ger Mellerick, Owen Downey and Niall O'Leary, has a better sort of a balance to it, and that might be what he could potentially be looking at in that regard. So I think just a couple of personnel issues, maybe 1 or 2 players that look to try and put their hands up. There haven't been that many so far. There's still a couple of games to go, as we know. I thought their play at times was a little bit lethargic, over laborious. They were, you know, trying to overplay it at times again, and it was maybe a little bit of a throwback to the Cork that we didn't particularly enjoy. I would hazard a guess they'll probably look to try and go slightly more direct this time around and get that ball in fast and early, like that electrified so many people last year. And we might start to see a little bit more of that on Saturday night, including the personnel changes, which might obviously see some of the more established names back in the starting 15.
Looking forward to that one. Tell you what else I'm looking forward to, Ursula, is having Wexford back, I guess, in a positive place again this weekend. I know they're going up against a Galway team who seem like they're going well as well, but the boost that the county must have gotten from last weekend is massive.
Yeah, without a doubt, it was a huge lift, because no matter what, confidence can be knocked when you lose the opening 3 games, and obviously the pressure was mounting. But you know, Keith himself, like, is a very steady character, and I think he doesn't get over excited about the wins or the losses, which is where you need your manager to be, because he knows himself there's challenges there. Wexford are not the finished product even after winning last weekend. They've loads of areas of improvement. But what I liked was, you know, they didn't throw in the towel. Their heads put down after the opening few minutes when Clare got the goal and the couple of points, but they kind of worked themselves into the game. That kind of fighting spirit that you associate with Wexford was there. There was a nice spread of scores. Finn was back. Obviously that was a huge boost to Wexford, and the players around him seem to raise their game when he's on the pitch as well. And obviously then a couple of the key positional switches, like Damien Rett moving on to Tony Kelly had a huge impact and bearing on the game, because it meant that Tony's influence wasn't as significant. So there was lots of positives. It gets Wexford a little bit more back on track, but they've a huge game against Galway this weekend now. But it puts them in a little bit of a better place than maybe you would have said 2 or 3 weeks ago.
It's amazing one swing of a result, Jacqui, isn't it? That Wexford, you're suddenly going, there's such a rain of positivity about them. And then you look at the All-Ireland champions, Clare, and everybody's saying, oh my God, they're in a complete mess on the back of this. I know Clare's maybe has been going for a while, but one big game has changed everything.
Yeah, one result against the head, and no one would have predicted Clare or Wexford going down to Clare and getting a win. It now puts Clare in a really, really difficult position. They have to win all their games to get out. And it gives Wexford something really tangible to take Galway on this weekend. If they can manage another 2 wins, they might just get out of that yet. And look, they'll fancy their chances against Galway. They've had a good history against Galway of recent. Lee Chin is back. That has taken the pressure off some other forwards. Seamus Casey really, really came to the fore the other night. So it's amazing by one result and even one player how important that is, and how it can just change the whole dynamic and landscape of a team and an elite position, you know. So they'll have a right cut off Galway this weekend. I'm sure Micheál Dunne will probably try a few more things, because I know he has been very experimental, and it's just something for Wexford to build on going in this weekend. They get another win, they're right back in the mix. And like leaving Wexford Park after that Kilkenny game, I thought Wexford were doomed. So huge credit to them, huge credit to Keith Roster, because they looked dead on their feet that night. They've, after picking it up, they got a huge bounce out of the team, and it's onwards now for them.
Yeah, if they did get another huge win, though, it'll be putting some pressure on Brian Lohan and Clare, though, Rory. Suddenly I know we've said before on this podcast, maybe getting relegated wouldn't be the worst thing, but seeing Wexford going the other way would definitely give him reason to think.
Well, I think this is the beauty of the league in this year's iteration of it, because the 2 going down, and like we have seen in the past, the impact relegation down to 1B. When we had this format in place, I don't know, was it maybe 7 or 8 years ago? Jacqui, you might have even played it when it was in this format. I don't know how far back we're going now. Like, and that's not been any way disrespectful, Jacqui. Sorry.
What a day.
Yeah, but like going down to Division 1B isn't the most desirable of things, just in terms of your competition, developing your team, but obviously it affects your gates and your receipts, and your county board are going to be looking at all of a sudden, well, we don't have Kilkenny, we don't have Cork, we don't have Tipperary coming to town. That's why I think there'll be a big crowd in Wexford Park on Saturday night, and the Wexford team probably owe their supporters a little bit more. But from a Clare perspective, I mean, it doesn't get any harder. The one interesting aspect, and I'd be interested in everybody's views on this, Limerick are favourites to win the All-Ireland, and we've only seen them twice, and we're into March. And I think that's really unusual, because there's an element of mystery still attached to Limerick. Obviously, you know, when a team which was going for 5 in a row and we know everything about, they've obviously gone away during the off-season. They have had a whole host of players involved in Fitzgibbon Cups. UL going on to win the Fitzgibbon, backbone largely by Limerick players as well. So you are going to have a cohort of players that I think will actually come in and certainly challenge the established starting 15. So this, I think, is really positive from a John Kiley perspective. There's nobody really talking about them. He has more or less a full hand to pick from. He's got 1 or 2 small little injuries, but nobody really significant bar Nicky Quaid. And he's got able enough deputies there. So far, so good. And they have their nearest and dearest in the Gaelic grounds this weekend. So, like, I think for me, that's the team I'm most interested to see. If Fitzgibbon is finished, there's no more distractions. We're less than 8 weeks out now from the start of the Munster hurling round robin. And I think from both teams' perspectives, it's now time to start ramping things up. And it'll make for a cracker, I think.
What do you think, Jacqui? Most intriguing team to see, Limerick?
I would agree with it. They're the only unbeaten team in Division 1A. The backdrop of it is that they were 4 in a row All-Ireland champions and dominated the hurling landscape. They've gone away and been very, very quiet in the off-season. All the noise was obviously the All-Ireland champions, Clare, and they've come back with some interesting tweaks. Kyle Hayes has slotted well in at 6. Barry Murphy has slotted extremely well in at 4, and he was down for 2 last weekend as well with Barry Nash back. And the big question is, what are they coming new with it in terms of young lads? and they have some really, really good lads. Patrick O'Donovan, Aidan O'Connor. I mean, Barry Murphy is almost like a new hurler as well. Colm Coughlin.
We saw Shane O'Brien last year, I know, but like I think we're going to see an awful lot more from him as well, Jacqui.
Yeah. So I think there's an eerie quietness about the Limerick. I think they haven't really done a whole lot of media. John Kiley is quiet. He normally comes out with a few kind of ratty little quotes throughout the league. We haven't heard anything out, and I think that's anonymous for the whole hurling country. The big thing was the loss of Nicky Quaid, and look, between Jason Gallan and Shane Dowland, they've been doing a decent job so far. But look, the devil will be in the detail when it's Munster Championship and they're playing down in Cork or Clare or somewhere like that. But all the signs would see that Limerick are going nowhere, and I'm not surprised to see them favourites for the All-Ireland.
Yeah, it's funny, Ursula, isn't it, though? People start to think, and maybe it was just Cork seemed to have their number last year and they did get stopped in that, but there was a sense around Limerick last year that, are they coming to an end? Is this the end of what has been a brilliant team? And suddenly the lads mentioned all these fines that they've had over the winter, and everyone's going, nope, not at all. Bang, the train is about to roll out of the station again.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, Limerick didn't become a bad team overnight just because they lost the All-Ireland semi-final. They came up against a fantastic Cork team who were playing full of confidence, and there was still very little between the sides. So, there's that little bit of hurt and anger too from last year as well. And I think that can be a huge motivating factor because, it will have hurt them that they didn't get to the final and maybe get their chance to play Clare again in a final and possibly beat them. So they are chomping at the bit. They're coming in nicely. As Jacqui said, they're the only team unbeaten in the league. And, they've got Clare in their home ground. Clare, who are struggling, have yet to win a game this year. And the satisfaction in Limerick would be, imagine if they got a win against them on Sunday and heap further pressure onto their nearest and dearest rivals in the last couple of years, Clare. So I think it's going to be a cracking game, but it's the strength and depth for me within that Limerick panel. And I think the flexibility of the players, like Barry Murphy, to me has been one of the standout players for Limerick in the league, and he has slotted into that cornerback position so seamlessly. So maybe it's just easy to play cornerback. I don't know, Jacqui. Maybe he'll answer that one.
That's a scandalous remark, how you are.
But do you know?
Reject that comment.
Do you know one thing though, Jacqui? What's interesting is, and we have someone on the podcast that can probably attest to this better than most. When you do lose an All-Ireland semi-final, and particularly an absolute cracker. I mean, I always remember I was there. I was actually in Croke Park on this day. Kilkenny played Galway in the 2005 semi-final. What a game of hurling. I think, was it 5-15? There was
4-15 or something like that.
4-15 to 5-8, 5-18 to 4-18 or something along those lines. It's off the top of my head now, I can't remember. And Galway knocked Kilkenny out it was just an incredible game. And we saw what Kilkenny did after that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you've poked the beast. Maybe that's a dangerous sentiment. Finishing off on that, though, Jacqui, for Clare, in the same way that we talked about Kilkenny being able to go after it in the next couple of weeks and potentially leave it all out against two Munster teams, are Clare in a different situation that obviously they finish off against Cork and Tip to come as well, and Limerick coming this weekend? It's kind of different in terms of, yes, they are probably needing a victory against one of those teams, but maybe also not wanting to go full bore because of what's facing down the line at them in just a couple of weeks against these same teams.
Yeah, but I think they'll want to get something from the league in terms of something to build on going into the Munster round robin, be it a win against your rivals in Limerick, something to just build on, because no matter how good of a hurler and how much you've won, no matter how brilliant Tony Kelly or Shane O'Donnell is, hurlers need confidence. They need something to go on and build on and go into camp. And they're not all robots that can just go, you know what, league is done, we got bet in every game, Limerick came to town, they did a job on us, everyone beat us. That has to sit at the back of your mind and give the other teams a bit of hope and a bit of renewed kind of confidence, going, lads, we turned these over already, let's have another cut off them. So there has to be something that Brian Lohan will need. He can't just discard the league and go, right, lads, it's all about the championship. And maybe he will say that at some point, but he will be looking for some nugget. And maybe it's Limerick come to town and they stand up and there's a massive big row and they go toe-to-toe with them. They beat Limerick, lose all the rest of the games, but they know, do you know what, lads?
We got Limerick.
when it came to it, we had Limerick's number again, and when we really to be nasty about, we did a job on them. Right, yeah, we're relegated, but let's concentrate. So they will be looking for something. And look at, is there any nicer carrot for Limerick coming after what happened the last couple of years with Clare to go, John, lads, we can put these lads down. We can put them down, we can laugh at them, and we can maybe go on off into a league final. So I think it's very, very tasty and intriguing. And if I wasn't maybe going to Cork on Saturday, I know where I might be going.
Yeah, I get you. You'd be a lot of people who'd be with you on that bus. Let's briefly look at Division 1B then, Ursula, because, I mean, if you'd have told people at the start of the year that Offaly would be going as well as they are and completely on course to get into Division 1A, I'm sure there's a lot of hurling people who would have said, yeah, they've been doing a lot of good stuff at underages, the 20s have been coming through, but maybe people wouldn't have thought it would be this good this soon. But there's no doubt about it, they have been the team of Division 1B so far.
Without a doubt, they've showed they've kind of brought in their form from last year with the Joe McDonough victory, and obviously the under-20 win as well. And they're kind of playing with that confidence too. And I'm not overly surprised that they're at the top, because I think they've showed that kind of steady progress over the last few years. And Johnny Kelly has stuck by him as well, and he's an excellent backroom team. And obviously we've seen the underage talent that they have within the county, but that win last weekend against, a team like Dublin, when things maybe weren't going their way and maybe Dublin looked like they were going to push on after getting the goal, and maybe the sending off ignited everything in that game. But to get that win was so important for that group of players, because it showed them that they can compete and beat a team like Dublin, who have been doing really well. And they're in an excellent position this weekend. They're coming up against Westmeath now, who are really struggling. They're at the bottom of the table, and if they win this weekend, it practically sees them into the final and playing Division 1A hurling next year. So that's a major tick, on their, when at the start of the year, when they're saying what do they want to get out of this year. I'm sure their ambition at the start was definitely being in the top two teams in Division 1B, so that they could be in the top 7 next year. So yeah, it's fantastic to see, and it's great for the game and great for Leinster hurling too.
Yeah, big platform for them going into the Leinster Championship. I guess, Jacqui, the bigger question is who's going to be with them in that final, because now that game between Waterford and Dublin this weekend suddenly feels really significant in terms of who can keep attaching themselves to an Offaly team who are breaking away here.
Yeah, that's it. There's a little bit of a gap opened up in the league between Offaly and the rest, and you could have 3-4 teams there that get on a bit of a run and could end up in a league final. So it's probably the better of the two leagues in terms of the positionings, in terms of the competition. The few games that have been called off just throws another little curveball into it, because a few guys have only 2 games played as well, so there's a lot to play for. Someone could come with a late run, but there's definitely that middle tier group, because outside of that, Antrim and Westmeath just seem to be struggling and seem to be heading for relegation. But any one of those other couple of teams could definitely stick their head above the parapet. And how great would it be to have a league final of an Offaly and Laois or an Offaly and Carlow, which is not off the realms of possibility. So a lot to play for in that division, which is absolutely fascinating. And everything about this league so far has been really good and positive. Great games, really competitive. There's no real dead rubbers. Everyone is very committed to it. A lot of kind of new, good young hurlers coming through that we're kind of looking for. And speaking of that, the most impressive thing, and I am a little bit surprised by Offaly topping, is Donal Shirley and Dan Burke at 6 and 11. So mature to be spying in the Offaly team. I thought, that they would be slowly migrated. No, Johnny Kelly's just, you're going in. You're the backbone of this team. We're going to build around G. So, and then the likes of the kind of, Brian Dignan up corner forward, things like that. I'm kind of surprised at the level of maturity and performance. And you take it again, Dublin. How good were they coming down the straight? That last free, they just look really composed.
Yeah. Look, and Jacqui's absolutely right, Rory. What it has done is it has set up this division to be an unbelievably compelling contest that we probably, we would have thought they're all, there's 3-4 teams who are in the shake-up. But I think given how Westmeath have been poor, you've been watching what's been happening with Antrim, maybe the teams who we thought might be in the mix are not. But having an Offaly back at the top table is really good for hurling.
Yeah, and what I love about it, like they're at home this weekend, obviously, and they this is an unbelievable opportunity for them, and I think they'll take it. A manager that's done an exceptional job, surrounded himself with some really good people. We know Shamie Call's in there, we know Benny Maher's in there. you know, he's not sparing anything in terms of knowledge, know-how, expertise, trying to push them on. Are they at the physical conditioning level to be able to compete with the really top teams? That's going to be a question that will come in the championship. They'll obviously be stepping up to another level when they take on the likes of Kilkenny, Galway and Wexford, who have been competing in Division 1A this year, come the championship. But what's been brilliant for them, I think, has been the incremental improvement. So we know a couple of years ago they were at Christy Ring level. They went and won that. They've now stepped into the Joe McDonagh. They went and won that. And they were in the lower division. They've now moved up. Now they're moving up into division. So it's not like that they're being thrown in at a deep end per se. Like, they're starting to find their feet as moving up the ranks. And I think that'll help in terms of confidence, in terms of their ability to be able to build momentum. And like, to have a county with the kind of tradition and the kind of stick work and the kind of panache that Offaly have traditionally brought to the table, to have them sort of back eating at Liam McCarthy Cup level and actually taking a few scalps and who knows from there. Sure, that's fantastic.
Yeah, well, look, you've set the weekend up nicely. We will leave it there for now. Lads, thanks a million for being with us. And to everybody who's listening, enjoy the games at the weekend, and we will talk to you when we review it all after the weekend.
There's the whistle.